Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. Time for another video, and in this one I'm going to replace the tail tidy on my Honda CRF300L Rally. There isn't really anything wrong with the one that comes on the bike, except for it does stick down a particularly long way. I suspect it's quite heavy, and it is just a big lump of plastic on the back of the bike. What I plan to replace it with is this Honda H2C Tail Tidy. So it fits on the same mounting points as the stock one. It uses the same number plate light as the stock one, and it actually comes from Honda as part of H2C, their accessories brand, but it does come from Thailand. So what this means is that even though it's an official Honda part, it looks very high quality, the same as the other H2C pieces I've had. All the instructions are in Thai, however, it really doesn't look that complex to put together. So I think the old one will just unbolt and the new one will go on. So the H2C one will bolt on in exactly the same place as to where this stock one currently bolts. It uses the existing illumination for the number plate, which will fit into there. And actually everything else should be exactly like for like, especially where all the holes line up. I think it will be slightly lighter, but it's always difficult to tell. This is I think a 2 or a 3 millimeter piece of powder coated steel, and this is a big lump of plastic. So we'll see how that compares. So yeah, here we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one off. So to take the old one off, there's a couple of 5mm bolts underneath. So I'm just going to take those out. Okay, so that's 2 bolts that are taken out from the underside of here. I'm just wondering if there is another way to remove the others. What I don't want to do is to damage the wiring that's for the rear illumination. There we go, so that's the lower section with the light piece, and then this upper section which I need to find a way to remove. So I've removed it, but what I can see now is that this wiring for the tail light, for the number plate light, actually goes and connects on under here. So unfortunately I think I need to take the panniers off, take the rack off, take this piece of plastic off and disconnect it on the inside so I can unthread it and then thread it back into the new tail tidy. Okay, there we go, and those hooks just come off, and so do the bags. Next thing is to remove the rear rack. That's the rear plastic off. If you look in here now, you can actually see quite well the new frame. So for those of you familiar with the CRF300L, it actually had a bolt-on subframe, and with the 300 they've actually welded it on. So that's these pieces up here. Someone had asked me the other day if the frame went all the way to the tip of the tail. You can see it basically comes to here is the end bar, which is what the luggage rack bolts onto. Here's the other luggage rack bolt. There are a couple more pieces here for holding the tail light, but that is effectively it. So the next thing to do is to find the connector for the number plate light, which is just inside this boot, and it is this one. If anyone else is doing this, I think this is definitely worth doing before you before you start unbolting down below. It's exactly the same connector for those of you who don't use the accessory connector. So yeah, I'm just going to push under from that side, and then that should just come undone through that. There we go. So that is the old tail light unit removed. For anyone that's used the accessory connector on the front, you want to see it again, that's kind of what they look like, and that's the one that's inside the fairing up there. So now I'm just going to dismantle this. I'm going to do that on the table and then refit the new one. So this is how it came off the bike. So the first thing I'm going to do is just thread that out through there. That is easy. That is a bit that I don't need right now. So now we can see a bit more of what's going to be replaced. So these 3 holes on the old one will be the ones that I think pretty much line up with these 2 and this on the new one. So with my Thai instructions, okay, so now I'm just going to remove this nut here, which is going to release the reflector. Now I'm not going to move that across just yet. Just going to pop that out of there. There we go. So on the back of here, I don't know if you can see, there is a little piece here, which actually I believe will actually line up exactly, and it does, with the holes that are in the H2C piece, so you can use that exactly as a like-for-like swap. I'm not going to put them on just yet because I'm going to weigh the pieces, which I know some people love, some people hate, but hey. Next thing is to remove the lighting bracket. I think these rubber bushes will probably be needed in the new one as well, so I'm just going to take those off. And yeah, you can see that these holes here actually match up exactly with that, and there's also the cutout for the wiring to go through for the rear light. So there you go, so that's basically the piece that's all that's left. So the bits that I'm comparing really is the weight of this with the two side pieces versus the old one. This one, which is the original one, I'll pop that on there, both pieces. Weighs in about 641 grams, 640 grams. And the new one, which is going to go on, weighs in at 626. So to be honest, there's almost nothing in it. You're certainly not going to make a significant weight saving by switching over, but it will be a lot smaller. First thing I'll do is I will refit the light. To do that, I'm going to put these rubber bushes back in the holes. You can see that. There we go, that's one of the rubber bushes, and I guess these are just shock mounts for the rear light. And I have found with these H2C components that they really are a perfect fit. They're all laser cut, they're all measured up exactly for the bike, and I've been very pleased with all the bits I've had from them so far. I'm just going to pop that back into the hole. I'm going to take the rear number plate lamp, just poke that through, and then that is going to get secured onto there. And then there is a washer and a nut that goes on the back of each. Just about see that. I'm going to put the reflector back on above it. Okay, so that is that in like that. Now I'm just going to tighten up the two nuts that are holding the light on. Okay, so that's all good. Anything I've noticed with this is there isn't actually any cover for it other than what's on there, which I guess is fine, but it was covered slightly on the old one by this little cowl that came over the top. So now the next thing to do, I think, is to get these two brackets, and these are going to go in, and they both go one on top of the other. This one goes underneath there. Yeah, all right, so these basically give a shroud at the back. It's easier to see, I think, from this side. There we go. So these two will go under like that. Can you see that? So this bolt needs a 9mm socket and a 4mm X wrench. Okay, so those two actually bolt up through there and back into the frame of the bike, so I'm not actually going to tighten that up fully just yet, just enough to keep those in place. Okay, so that's it kind of assembled. Like I said, there isn't really much to it. All these laser cut holes seem to line up really nicely. That will thread back up through there. So now I think it's just a cable tie that goes around there. I'll probably bolt it back to the bike first through that hole before I put the cable tie on. But yeah, that is basically it. So we'll go back to the bike and fit it. So just before I put this on, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of the light and just feed it back up through the hole. Just pull that clear at the top, like that. See the slight flaw with doing that up quite that tightly is that I can't fit the other washers in. So let's loosen that off a little bit. Okay, that's now lined up. So I think that's it. I'm just going to check the light still works. Yeah, we still have a light. There you have it, that's it reassembled. I haven't put the seat back on again yet, but I will do that, and I'll also refix my number plate. Again, just to see the side-by-side comparison, that was the old one. Hopefully you can see the difference, and it really is quite significant. So yeah, I think it'll just make the back of the bike look a lot tidier. I believe that is the point of these things. You can see under there, the last thing I'm going to do before I put this away is there's a couple of holes that have been laser cut into the bracket there. So I'm just going to get a cable tie and just put it around that to hold that up there, and then pull the rest of the wiring in under the seat like that. And then I think we should be good. So that is in there now. I don't know if you can see under here, but there is actually quite a big hole that was previously covered by the old tail tidy. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to get some electrical tape and put a bit over the bottom and a bit over the top just to stop any dirt from getting up. Because there are all the connectors for the back end wiring are just above that, and anything just to keep any dust and dirt out of there is ideal. Now I know that's probably not just going to stick on its own, especially for how dirty it's going to be, but then when I put another piece over the top, hopefully the sticky surface between the two of them will actually grip. I think for the underside actually needs to be a fairly small piece just to cover that. There we go. So then hopefully you can see under here, so that's the hole that I've just put some electrical tape top and bottom just to keep the dust out. I've reconnected the number plate light back on there, pushed it back inside the rubber boot, so that's all ready for the tail plastic to go back on. So I shall go and refit that. So those of you who have been paying attention may have noticed that the rear plastics on the bike have changed somewhat since I took them off, and this Enduristan Rally pack has appeared. I took this opportunity to actually fit it and to bolt it on while the plastics were removed. I don't know if you can see that under there. If you want to see that, it's actually in a separate video, so I will cover exactly how I've drilled that and fitted it in there, but for now, just take it from me. It's just going back on, just making sure it still fits, so I won't be refitting the rack. I'm going to put the panniers back on without the rack. That is my video of how to install a Honda H2C Tail Tidy onto the CRF300L Rally. The one thing I haven't done in this video is just refitting the number plate, but you don't need to see my number plate, and I can just drill that and fit it after the video is done. So thanks for watching. I hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.